Hello my dear friends, you're in the Military Summary channel. In this video we're going to discuss the most important events that took place during the previous 12 hours. We have lots of very interesting updates, so let's start. And first we're going to talk about the conflict on the territory of Ukraine, where both the Russians and the Ukrainians once again attacked each other with drones. The Minister of Defense of Ukraine this morning published this article, and according to this article the Russians used 294 drones to attack the territory of Ukraine. The sources stated that the Russians were attacking the Odesa region, the city of Zaporizhzhia and the city of Kharkiv. At least the biggest number of updates we received exactly from these territories. As for the Odesa region, we have a video from the area of the settlement by the name of Vorovka, and here we have how the Russians, as a result of reconnaissance operation, managed to discover a place where the Ukrainians were producing drones, and as a result of attack, this facility was completely destroyed, according at least to the author of this video. Another place that was attacked by Russians is the city of Zaporizhzhia. As for the city, the Russians were attacking an object of energy and fuel infrastructure in the eastern parts of the settlement. So this oil base was completely destroyed by Russians, and we have this video where we can see black smoke over this object of energy infrastructure, and here we have the same object but from another angle. Here we can see black smoke, and fire broke out after the Russians attacked this territory with drones. Another important city that was attacked by Russians is the city of Kharkiv. During the night, we received lots of updates from this area. In this video, we can see aftermath, more photos of the fire in Kharkiv after Iran strike, black smoke over the settlement. Here we have the consequences of attack. Some buildings were completely destroyed. We can see the parts of drones that the Russians were using to attack a bus station, probably. In this video, we can see the overnight attack itself. A huge explosion took place somewhere on the horizon, and in this video we can see a Russian drone was flying over the territory of Kharkiv without facing any resistance from the Ukrainian side. As of the 16th of May of 2026, we see that Ukrainians have no air defense systems and forces around the city of Kharkiv, and they can't do anything with the Russian drones flying over the territory. Now let's discuss the Ukraine attack. Yesterday in the evening, pro-Ukrainian sources published this picture where we can see the approximate routes of the Ukrainian drones that were flying deep inside of the territory of Russia. We have lots of directions, several drones. Some drones were flying in the southern direction, some of them were flying in the direction of the central part of Russia, and during the night we also received lots of reports. The Minister of Defense of the Russian Federation stated that during the day of the 15th of May, the Russians destroyed 56 drones, and overnight the Russians destroyed 138 drones of the armored forces of Ukraine. The sources stated that lots of explosions and damages were recorded through the city of Belgorod, which is located right in front of the city of Kharkiv and right along the main lines and roads of Ukraine's attack. Another important area is the settlement deep inside of the territory of Russia, Naberezhnye Chelny. The distance between the city of Naberezhnye Chelny and Ukraine itself is around 1,300 kilometers. So this is the starting point of drones, and this is the city of Naberezhnye Chelny. The distance, as you can see, is a bit less than 1,300 kilometers. The Ukrainians attacked the city, and most likely the Ukrainians were attacking an object of energy infrastructure or an object of fuel infrastructure. And here we have a video published by locals from the city of Naberezhnye Chelny, and here we have a huge fire broke out after the Ukrainians attacked this territory. Another important territory that was attacked by the Ukrainians is the southern parts of Russia. During the night, we received a video from the settlement of Nizhnekamsk, and the sources reported that the Ukrainians attacked the Nizhnekamsk chemical plant. In this video, we can see a fire broke out after the Ukrainians attacked this territory, and here we have the same territory, the same chemical plant, but from another angle, and we see that the fire in this area is growing. Another important area that was attacked by the Ukrainians is the Caspian Sea, and the distance between the Caspian Sea and the launching site of the armored forces of Ukraine is also around 1,200 kilometers. And the sources reported that the Ukrainians attacked navy fleets of the armored forces of the Russian Federation. In this video, we can see a drone kamikaze attack occurred at the Caspian flotilla based in Dagestan. The Ukrainians claim a small rocket ship and minesweeper were damaged, but there is no confirmation. The fact of attack is surprising as military personnel are not equipped with anti-drone systems to neutralize the threat. Instead, attempts were made to shoot down the drone with small arms, which were unsuccessful. So, as you can see, the Russians didn't expect the Ukraine attacking this area, and most likely due to the situation, the Ukrainians will continue attacking this region with the purpose to damage as many as possible Russian ships in this region. We have covered most of the updates regarding strikes. Probably the most important thing is the statement that was made by the President of Ukraine, Zelensky. He said that Russian forces are currently searching for the location of Ukrainian leadership in order to destroy it. Ukraine is preparing a response plan and will strengthen its northern direction due to Russia's intention to involve Belarus in the war and potentially launch new operations from its territory, either against the Chernihiv-Kyiv direction or against NATO countries. Now let's discuss the situation on the ground. We have lots of very interesting updates, and the most important updates this morning are coming from the area of the responsibilities of the Group of Forces West. According to the Minister of Defense of the Russian Federation, General of the Army Valery Gerasimov, Chief of the General Staff of the Russian Armed Forces, inspected the implementation of combat tasks by the Western Group of Forces. At the command post of one of the associations, he heard a report from different commanders, and after this situation happened, he made lots of very interesting statements. Let's discuss them in details. So this is the statements that were made by the Commander-in-Chief of the Armed Forces of the Russian Federation. The Sixth Army is developing an offensive in a westerly direction from Kupiansk towards Shevchenkovo. The following locations have been taken by Russians or are undergoing battles: Kutkivka, BOROVA, Lugansk region. Ongoing street battles are taking place in Velika Shapkovka, Shiikovka, Krasny Lyman, a major administrative center and railway hub with 85% of the city territory under control of Russians. Battles are being fought to take the next settlements under control: Novomir, Druzhelyubovka, Chernyshina, and so on. So a very big report, but it's better to understand what exactly he was talking when talking about the map. So according to the Chief of the General Staff of the Armed Forces of the Russian Federation, Valery Gerasimov, the Russians, by the morning of the 16th of May of 2026, managed to establish complete control over the settlement by the name of Kutkivka. And these are the changes on the ground between the dates. This is the end of the 15th of May, and this is the end of the 16th of May of 2026. The Russians, according to the Minister of Defense, according to the Chief of the General Staff, established complete control over the territory, and the Russians continue offensive operation further. Furthermore, according to Valery Gerasimov, currently the clashes are taking place for the settlement of Velika Shapkovka. So the clashes are taking place in this area. The Russians are saying that there is a presence of Russian forces and troops on the territory of the village, but there are still Ukrainian forces as well, so which means that the settlement of Velika Shapkovka is more in the gray zone than under complete control of the armed forces of Ukraine. According to this report, most likely in coming days, the map will be adjusted in this region. Now let's move to the most important area according to the report that the Chief of the General Staff made based on the inspection of the Group of Forces West. We are talking about the BOROVA direction. As you can see, the map has been adjusted significantly. So this is the end of the 15th of May of 2026, and this is already the beginning of the 16th of May of 2026. And according to the Chief of the General Staff, the Russians, more precisely the First Tank Army, as a result of clashes, managed to establish complete control over the settlement by the name of BOROVA. So the biggest and the most important settlements in this area were taken by Russians by the beginning of the 16th of May of 2026, and probably due to this progress on the ground, Chief of General Staff made this inspection just to make these statements. Most likely in coming days or hours we will receive videos that will confirm the situation. Of course, as of the moment when I started making this video, we didn't have anything like videos to confirm this, so that is why we decided to keep yellow area as well. But now we see we will do the same thing as we have in the Kupiansk direction, both red and yellow lines areas along the eastern bank of the river Oskol. Here we will going to have the same thing until we get final confirmation that indeed the territory is under complete control. So this is the situation, and of course, once again, if this information is correct, then we can say that the Ukraine's defenses through the eastern bank of the river Oskol have collapsed completely without any chances to save control over this pocket. In coming days, weeks, the Ukrainians would be forced to fall back from this area, from the eastern bank of the river Oskol towards the western bank of the river, towards the settlements of Izyum, and further deeper in the direction of Balakleya and in the direction of Shevchenkovo, so deep inside of the Kharkiv region. Another important thing that, according to the chief of the general staff, the Russians are fighting for the settlement of Shrikovka, so probably 20-30% of the village is already under complete Russian control. Furthermore, the clashes are taking place for the settlement of Cherneshina, and the clashes are taking place for the settlement of Drizhelyubovka. So this is the situation. The Russians continue advancing, and probably this is, according to the chief of the general staff of the armored force of the Russian Federation, is the line of combat contact. The Ukrainians have less and less positions under their control. There are just several villages, but according to this configuration, the front line, and due to the situation that Ukrainians lost the main logistic lines around the settlement of Borova, and to support their forces through the river Oskol, through the southern area, is very difficult or even sometimes impossible. We believe that in coming months, or 2 months or 3 months, the Ukrainians would be forced to fall back from this area completely without any chances to save control over the eastern bank of the river Oskol. And as we discussed just a minute ago, the Russians continue improving their positions in the northeastern part of Kharkiv region, which means that the Russians are not planning to stop with this. They are not planning to stop just along the eastern bank of the river Oskol. The Russians will continue offensive operation, at least in the direction of the northeastern part of Kharkiv region, with the purpose to establish complete control over the territory between the rivers of Seversky Donetsk, Oskol, and the border of the Russian Federation. As for this part of Kharkiv region, probably the Russians will continue their offensive operation in this area as well, with the purpose to outflank the city of Kharkiv, and then in the future, maybe in 2027, to have possibilities to attack the city of Kharkiv from behind. So the Kharkiv offensive operation is gaining momentum, and this direction is becoming one of the most important directions for Russia, because they want to push the launching sites of drones of the armored forces of Ukraine as deep as possible in the direction of the river of Dnipro, which, according to Russians, will reduce the number of successful strikes from the Ukrainian side deep inside of the territory of Russia. As for the Slaviansk direction, here we have also important changes and reports. The chief of the general staff stated that Russians, by the beginning of the 16th of May 2026, control up to 85% of the settlement, which means that in 2 weeks the settlement of Lyman would be taken by Russians, according to the chief of general staff. When talking about the current situation on the ground, about the city of Lyman, according to geolocations and different experts, the Russians control just 5%. So a very huge gap, but it's probably due to the situation that the Russians are trying to keep the situation in a secret. As for the Konstantinovka, Zaporizhzhia directions, during the previous 12 hours we haven't received anything special. There are very heavy clashes, but as you can see, without significant changes on the ground. We have lots of videos from the settlement of Chaplina, the main logistic line that Ukrainians use to bring additional forces in the Zaporizhzhia and Dnipropetrovsk direction. And during the previous 12 hours, the Russians discovered positions of the armored forces of Ukraine in this area, temporary deployment points, and then the Russians began bombing and attacking this territory, trying to not allow the Ukrainians to bring fresh forces to the line of combat contact. We have covered most of the updates regarding the conflict on the territory of Ukraine, and now let's discuss a few more important things that were published by Russians. According to information we have, residents of Transnistria will now be able to obtain Russian citizenship through a simplified process. Vladimir Putin signed the corresponding decree. So according to this decree, according to the situation, these civilians of Transnistria, of this area, just need to sign an application and they will obtain Russian citizenship. And this is a very important situation, that because several days ago the Russians adopted another interesting law, and according to information we have, the state Duma has adopted a law on the use of the Russian armed forces to protect Russian citizens abroad. The law was developed to protect the rights of Russian citizens in case of their arrest, detention, criminal and other persecution. The Speaker of the State Duma, Vyacheslav Volodin, commented on the law, noting that Western justice has become an instrument of repression against unwanted individuals. So this is his comment, but now summarizing these two laws that were adopted by Russians, we understand that if something happens on the territory of Transnistria, where most of the people will obtain the Russian citizenship, this will allow the Russians to use forces against Moldova or against countries that are doing this, some aggression against the state, including of course Ukraine. So which means that most likely both the Western countries, Ukraine and the Russian Federation, are preparing themselves before the beginning of the final battle for Transnistria. Now let's talk about the United States of America. We see that the states are preparing themselves before the beginning of the second or fourth Iranian war. During the previous 24 hours, we received lots of very interesting statements. First of all, and the most interesting, that the United States has again prohibited other countries from purchasing Russian oil and petroleum products. The American license that allowed such operations has expired and the restrictions are once again in effect. Very interesting to see whether the Americans are going to renew the licenses once again, but we have lots of countries and companies that were asking the Ministry of Finance of the United States of America to do so. Maybe in coming days they will do this. So everything depends probably on the situation in Ukraine. Another important thing, Trump said he will not recognize Taiwan's independence because American troops would have to travel 9,500 miles to the region to fight, and therefore he wants China to come down and the military aid package for Taiwanese may not yet been approved. Another important thing, the X network users summed up Trump's historic visit to China. There is almost nothing to show for Trump's trip to China what wasn't achieved. Cessation of Iranian oil purchases, pressure on Iran over the Strait of Hormuz, deals on trade tariffs, deals on Taiwan. So which means that, as we discussed, the meeting between Trump and Xi Jinping was failed, mainly for the US side. At the same time, we received a report that the United States of America is going to open the Strait of Hormuz, and probably this is going to happen either this weekend or upcoming week, and most likely this is going to be made using military means. Another important thing, that oil prices are moving further. The oil markets yesterday on Friday of the 15th of May of 2026 closed on the level of $105.42 per barrel for WTI, and these are the highest prices on Friday when markets were closed, which means that the President of the United States of America doesn't have any more space for maneuvering, and there's just the only option left for him is the military operation against Iran, which most likely may start very, very soon. And that's it for the short video. The Military with Summary channel remains to condemn any violence in the world. Thank you for watching, subscribe to my channel, put your likes, join my Patreon, and have a good day. Bye bye.